Hello and welcome to my studio. I'm Jessie and this is the Knit Up and Die podcast, episode 36, Multiple Project Pitfalls. I learned some things this week. Thank you to all my subscribers and welcome to everyone who's new. I love you guys. As always, this is ultimately about you and our craft. And if you have something you'd like to see, send me a message and I'll do my best for you. I did receive a couple of messages this past week, and I'm working hard to figure out how to incorporate those questions and their answers into the podcast for you with demonstrations. So ask away, I love having you. Special hello and thank you needs to go out to, I have a list, Barbara, Stacy, Sherry, Linda, Dana, Suzanne, Adrian, Kathy, Nicole, Vishon, Shannon, Glenda, and Cricket. Hi guys, thank you so much. I love every one of you. Say hello when you have a chance over in the group and certainly ask your questions. I'd love to get to know you. Oh, it's been a week. It's been a week. Every week's been a week. So my sweater remains stalled. Why? I don't have any good excuses except that it's been 100 million degrees here. Seriously, surface of the sun. And I've been doing other things. My focus has been in other places. And I really want to stop and take time to look at it with a clean head, with spare time, so that I can make the right decisions and do the right thing. That's it. That's my excuse. I'm sticking to it. It's not that I don't want to do it. I'm not blatantly avoiding it. It simply hasn't been an opportunity this week. My How to Eat an Elephant blanket, because it's potato chip knitting in front of the TV, that does continue to move on. I have it with me. I actually have it on the needle right now. There's a square in progress. And let's see, last time I showed you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 2 and less than a quarter square done this week. I got this one and this one done, and this little guy, gosh, there's ends everywhere, is on the needles right now, and he's going to be green and purple. And it's growing and it's big and it's wonderful and I love it. And I did post some pictures last week on Instagram. A friend had asked to see the whole thing as best I could get it on camera. And I took a picture, I put it up on Instagram, and thank you to every one of you who left me such beautiful compliments and comments regarding it. Again, if you were interested in trying to make something similar, feel free to pop over to my Ravelry project page. I have my formula written out there. And if you're not a Ravelry user, just contact me, pop me an email, and I'll send you the formula. And it's fully adaptable. If you would like bigger squares, if you would like smaller squares, if you'd like to outline it in a different color, if you'd like to skip the outline altogether, all of that's possible. It's entirely up to you. It's your memory blanket. You make it the way you want to remember things. And have at. Certainly, like I said, contact me and I'll send you the formula and you can mess with it all you want. My other projects. So, I had some travel knitting available to me that were my Dark Hero socks. I've shown these to you guys before. This is for my husband, and I was knitting them with an elastic thread held together with the sock yarn to give it this wonderful elastic stretch. And I did that for the first 5 inches of the leg. My husband wants an 8-inch leg. And so the remaining like 2 inches that I've done here are not in the elastic. They are still ribbed, but they don't rebound quite as much as the elastic does. He's got really skinny legs and really skinny ankles, but then he has a very high arch like I do. And these are currently stalled. I did get a couple of inches done this week, but they're currently stalled because somebody needs to try this on so I can figure out whether or not I need to do an increase at the ankle to accommodate his instep before I do the heel. Otherwise, I'm afraid it's going to be too tight at the diagonal before the actual heel turn there. So, parking until I can chase him down and put a wool sock on him in 110-degree weather. That'll be a good time. Oh, I I've got my yarn stuck. Let's fix that. Okay. If the zipper doesn't pull smoothly, something's stuck in it. I'm learning. I also worked on my Addicted to You scarf. It is done. Yay, it's done. It needs to be blocked. As you can tell by the curling peaks here on the end, these are actually peaks. They're curling at this point. That'll come out in blocking. It'll all set up nice. I played yarn chicken with this thing. I really wanted to get it to use all of my yarn. And I had 2 different balls of yarn, 2 different yardages. And so, yeah, I made a deal with myself. I'd go as far as I could with the smaller yardage ball, and I did. And thought I left enough for the bind off. This was a game of yarn chicken for sure. I got bound off all but the last 8 stitches right there and ran out of yarn. I had enough that I could leave a tail to weave in, but 8 stitches. I fought with myself. I fought with myself hard. When I design something, I want to design it ultimately so it's something that you can readily recreate. I want to make sure that my pattern lists a yardage that is about 10% higher than what you actually need. And this is a practice among most pattern designers. That 10% gives you a little bit of flux. That 10% makes up for your gauge. That 10% makes up for if the ball didn't have the yardage it promised. It's just a little bit of wiggle room. That 10% in this case is going to mean that when I write it up and I suggest the number of peaks to work for the smaller yardage amount, because it's going to be written for the smaller yardage amount, I will include 1 full peak less in my pattern. That will give you the wiggle room. When I get to this last 8, so I was really frustrated. Because I wanted to bind it off. I wanted it to use as much yardage as possible. But I didn't want to have excess overage either. And I didn't want to have a partial peak. So my choice was figure out a way using the yardage that I had to bind off those 8 stitches, or rip back a whole peak and bind off and have the excess. I had a serious fight with myself. The answer was I used the other end of the ball that I had the remaining yardage on, and I held that together because it's 2 yarns together. I held that together and I bound off the last 8. I wove in the tail that I had. I wove in the 2 tails that resulted. Again, that is a last-ditch effort to bind this off and use the most yardage possible. And for 8 stitches, nobody will ever be the wiser. The colors are so close and so complementary. You're the only ones that know you have my secret. But I will be writing it with 1 peak less, and I think that will equate to about the 10%. And it's significant in size. It really is quite significant in size. This is pre-blocking, it's garter, it's going to stretch out, and it is just shy of my actual physical height. So it's a perfect scarf length. And I love it. I love it, I love it, I love it. I already have modifications in mind for the next model, because there's going to be a series of these. And let me show you what I'm thinking. And maybe, if you're interested, you could give me some feedback. Let me know if you like what I'm thinking. So this scarf, as it is right now, will go around and it'll drape and it'll wrap, and you've got this nice scarf, and it's got this really thick area and it has this thin peak area, and you can do a bunch of creative things with it. You could pin this 8 ways to Wednesday. But I was thinking for the next model, what I was going to do, was set this up so that there are openings here in parallel where you bound off and then you pick stitches back up just to create a buttonhole so that when you wrapped it around your neck you could pass the second thing through the buttonhole and come around again just to lock it in place. It'll give you a bunch of different options for how to wear it because you could pass it through one hole, both holes, you could pass it through the holes multiple times. But what I'm thinking, just to explain it a little bit more clearly, is on the broad end here, not too close to the end, probably about 4 inches from the end, having a buttonhole, a long buttonhole built in, probably about 4 inches apart, 2 parallel buttonholes to pass the thinner tail through. I'd love to hear your feedback. I'd like to hear if you like the idea, if you would wear the idea, if you think it's a clever idea, if you have suggestions on how to handle that. Give me some feedback. Let's hear it. Before I knit an entire thing and determine that I've wasted an awful lot of knitting time. Anyway, so this is coming very soon. I'm going to block it. I'm going to write it up. I don't know that I'm going to send it out to test, just because it's so simple. Like I said, again, this is an incredibly easy, talk about potato chip knitting. I did this whole thing in the car driving to work. Not one day, and I wasn't driving. But while my husband was driving, I'd just pick it up and I'd go on it, and it was wonderful. Mindless, easy to read, easy to work. Knit, yarn over, knit 2 together, bind off. That's all you need to know to do this. And you can use any 2 skeins of fingering together. It'll be beautiful. They marl and they make this wonderful fabric. So it's coming very quickly. Lessons were learned while I was working on this, and I'm going to come back to that in just a minute. Also this week, last week, I showed you guys an improvised shawl, how to do the triangular shawl, and just the rules that you need so that you can improvise any triangular shawl out of any yarn that way. And I demonstrated it for you, and I had some yarn, and I had a needle, and I started this, and I even posted some pictures for you. This has been ripped out twice and restarted twice, simply because I wasn't thrilled with the original gauge. I liked the gauge that I got to demonstrate it for you just because it was dense and easy to photograph. But when I actually got further on in it, I realized it was going to be cardboard and it was going to be very difficult to wrap around me. And really, I didn't want the triangle to stand up on its own. I wanted it to be drapey and lovely. So I bumped my needle size way up, just because this is a bulky yarn. And I recommend that. Really, if you're going to improvise a shawl, if you're going to put work into it, and if you're going to have fun doing it, don't get too far into it before you really look at how it's moving and whether or not that's going to drape the way you want it to. It's sort of swatching. For those of you who are non-swatchers, think of it as practice, that you started a shawl and it just didn't work out for you, so you ripped it back and you did it again. I would not create a separate square for this. You only have to go so far, and I did it twice in the same day and it was no big deal. It's not a huge project. But when it's right, you don't have to stop and go start your shawl. You've already done a big chunk of it and you can move on. Anyway, so if you're interested in following along and doing the improvised shawl, grab a couple skeins of yarn, grab 1 skein of yarn, and pop back, take a look at episode 35, and the instructions are all in there. Also underneath the videos, I've always posted what the instructions were in written form, as well as in the credits if you want to try and catch it going by at 30 seconds. Or if you have questions, just contact me and let's have some fun. I'm posting these on Instagram, and I am using a hashtag. Boy, I'm blowing it up now. I am using a hashtag. I'll list that here because off the top of my head I can't remember what it is, and I don't want to blow that up for you too. But let me see what you're doing. Let me see how it's working out for you. These are my colors. These are 2 yarns that I've had in my stash for at least 5 years, and I want to put them to use. And the first one that I did, I actually got into the second color, and it's glorious with it. It's so beautiful. I'm really excited. And my thought on this, because it is a bulky weight, is really just, I want something that I can grab, that I can throw around my shoulders for when I'm sitting out on the patio in the fall days and it's just a little bit chillier than I like, but not quite blanket ready. Just to enjoy when I'm sitting outside in the evenings in the autumn. Maybe in the spring. It'll be pretty either way. So, project underway. And that one I'm really being super lax about. It's going to be one of those things that I'm going to pick up, that I made some rules for myself. The next time I pick it up, I have to change colors. And I'm going to stay in that color until I'm done that day. And then the next time I pick it up, I have to change colors again. That's going to create the random intervals of color for me. Rule, of course, is you have to finish the row. You don't stop in the middle of a row on this. And I'm just going to switch up stitch patterns or do whatever I feel like when I do it that day. And let it be super random and just fun, So rules, but not like scary rules, like fun rules, game rules. Alright, so let's see. I've covered that. And so I played Yarn Chicken. What did I learn this week? Well, I was working on this in the car. And that was usually in the morning. I did work on it a little bit on my lunch breaks this past week, just to finish it off. In fact, that's where the bind off happened in the garden at work, with me just going, what? No! Ah! And so, it's beautiful, it ended properly. But in my evenings at home, I was working on my How to Eat an Elephant blanket. Shouldn't be a problem. They're both garter projects. Shouldn't be a problem. I know how to garter, knit. However, my How to Eat an Elephant blanket, at the beginning of every row, you slip the first stitch. On this you don't. So I would just get into a habit, and I was comfy and happy, and I'm knitting up, enjoying my world, and I wasn't defining the projects in my head. I wasn't separating the projects in my head. I was just knitting. And I made some mistakes on this guy where I would turn and I'd start the row and I'd slip the stitch. And I didn't realize the first time I did it until I was probably 8 rows past it. And you know how sometimes something just catches your eye and you're like, that doesn't look right. And I'm in the car, and I turned to my husband, who's driving in traffic, because, you know, a knitting emergency is all about driver safety. Do you see something wrong with this? And he's like, not now. I'm like, okay. He got to a stoplight. Do you see something wrong with it? And he looked at it and he goes, yeah, there's a problem there on the edge. And I was like, but how obvious is it? He's like, there's a problem there on the edge. Well, do I want to rip back? No. I can drop down and fix my mistakes. I've never dropped down on an edge stitch before. Not sure I want to do that. So I just stopped what I was doing at that point, and I rolled it all up and I stuffed it in my bag, and I got to work. And I got into the garden at lunch, and I looked at it and went, well, it doesn't matter whether I drop down now or I drop down in 4 more rows. If I'm going to drop down and fix it, I can keep knitting in the meantime. And so I sat there at my lunch break and I knit away. And then I got home that night and I pulled this out. I decided I wanted to work on this a little bit because I was getting really close to the end. Yeah, you're close to the end, you gotta finish, you get excited. And I look at it and darn it all if I hadn't done it 3 more times. And I was like, okay, once, yeah, I can twist this around and pin it and you'll never see it. You won't be able to see it from the back of a horse. But now it's at this weird interval and I clearly have an edge issue. I have a problem here. And I was frustrated and I was like, okay, so I tried to drop it down and I couldn't get it to carry back up the way I wanted to, and it wasn't clear in my head how to deal with that edge stitch. And I was getting frustrated. My husband said, well, you know, there's these knitting experts that put podcasts up on YouTube and there might be a demonstration. Yeah, point out the obvious. Thank you, love. So I went to the YouTubes and I did a search for picking up dropped garter stitch edge. And sure enough, there was a video and that video was smashing. It was perfect. I'm checking my cheat sheet here. Martha Lyons. Martha Lyons is on YouTube. She has a video specifically called Picking Up a Dropped Edge in Garter. Martha, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Knitters who share their techniques online. Mwah! I love you guys. Super easy, really easy. Once she showed me how to pull those out, look at them, and see whether the front or the back was a knit or pearl, and how to use the tool to pull that back up. I dropped all the way down. I fixed all of them. A corrected mistake is no longer a mistake, is it? It's beautiful. I'm thrilled. I have got the link for you guys. It's going to be down below no matter what platform you're seeing this on, and it's going to be in the credits. The link is this long, so the credits, it's just going to go by because I want to be sure I credit her, but the link will be an active link below or something that you can copy and paste. If I can figure out how to do the little video attachment thing that you insert on the screen so that you can click on the video and hop over to another video or cue the next video, I will try to do that, but we're talking about more tech savvy than I might be. I know it can be done. I've seen it, but we'll see. We'll see. I'll give it a try. I promise. So it's beautiful, and thank you again to any knitter who ever puts their technique up. Putting yourself online and saying, I know how to do this and you can all follow me, is a leap of faith. I'm very quick to always tell you that it's never wrong, it's only different. And people may present techniques in a way that doesn't seem quite right to you or isn't the way that you would do it. That doesn't make it wrong. It makes it a different way to handle the issue. And going out there and proclaiming yourself an expert and showing people how to do something is, boy, it's an act of vulnerability. It is an act of bravery, because it's rare that we have the bravado, the courage, the strength, the bravery to step out onto such a big arena. The internet is huge, and say, yeah, I got this, everybody follow me. So thank you to everybody who does. I know what that takes, and I'm proud of you, and I'm grateful for you. Have at. That's that. I'm off that soapbox, eh? So what else? That was what I learned. Multiple project pitfalls. Try to keep your actions separate in your head, otherwise you'll carry stuff over from one project to another and it may not be a good thing. Minis are coming. Yes, I'm back in the dye pots, and I am doing up batches of minis. I've had several requests for minis. I'm down to, I think there might be 1 set of minis left in my shop. If you're working on a memory blanket and you have specific color themes that you'd like, or if you just need randomness to break up what you're doing and add variety to your scraps, contact me, let me know what you're looking for. I'm happy to create collections for you specifically. Otherwise, I'm going to try and have some kind of grab bag things going on in there, in addition to the actual collections. The collections, I try to have cohesive. I try to give a variety that really all work together and will kind of be a theme. I've done them before, you've seen them, where it's like beach themed or summer themed. The grab bags will be different. They'll be much less cohesive, much more variety to really give you kind of that candy jar sort of look. So if you want minis, contact me. Otherwise, watch the shop. They're coming soon. In other news, other projects, I have been commissioned to make one of my art dolls. I showed you guys, boy, it's been probably a month and a half. I posted on my video other things that I do in response to some questions I had gotten about what other crafts I do. And there was a viewer, a very dear viewer, who contacted me and asked me to do a doll for her. And I haven't done a doll in quite a while. It's been at least a year. And I have to tell you, I missed it. I love doing them. I'm not going to show it to you. I'm not going to show it to you. Part of the art doll process is that the buyer doesn't see it until it has arrived. And the buyer's fully aware of this. She knows the rules. She's excited about it. It's designed with the buyer in mind, and there's a whole interview process I go through where I gather information from you before I create the doll. And the doll's shape is always unique, and the colors are always unique, and the beading on it is always unique. And the process, the creative process behind it, is so much fun. I get to really delve into the buyer's mind and look at personality and look at their intent and look at their wants and their needs and kind of pop on their shoes and create this focal point in their vision, in their spiritual energy, and decorate it and design it and make this. It's great fun. It's great fun. It's freeing. I can't say enough about it. I am so grateful for the opportunity to work on this. I am taking some photos as I go along that will go to the buyer eventually so that she can see kind of my process if she wishes to. Dependent on her entirely will be if you guys ever see it. I'm not going to release the buyer's name. I'm not going to show you the doll without her permission. And even then, if I do show you the doll and she asks to remain anonymous, she will remain anonymous. But I've been so excited by this. I've been so brought into my creative realm with this that I think I'm going to start making some other dolls and putting them up in my Etsy shop, making them available to you so that if you're just not quite at the point where you're willing to commission the design of a doll, maybe there's one there that just catches your eye that you'd like to have or have embellished in addition to make it yours. That is likely to be happening in the near future just because I'm so in love with the process again. And it's so much fun. And it's such a change from knitting. And that's not to say that I like it better. No, there's not. That's not it at all. It's interesting because the more I have worked on the doll, the stronger my urge to knit has been. But in different creative mindset where I'm thinking in different shapes and I'm thinking in different colors, and it's not taking away from the beading, it's like in addition to the beading. So I want to do more of everything. Just really turning on my creative juices, and I'm excited about that. So that's it. That's what I have been doing this week, mainly because it's 110 degrees here and I have stuff on the stove boiling away, making minis. So I need to go back and do that. It's a short show this week, guys. I'm sorry. But I love you, and I'm thrilled that you joined me again. And oh, I know I did have big news before I let you go. Big news is that Dumbledore's Army and Order of the Phoenix, both of the hats are done teching, the photography is done, the patterns are written, they are listed to Ravelry. I have sent them out to the test knitters. You guys are wonderful. Thank you so much for volunteering to do that for me. I'm eager to see their questions, their comments, their pictures, and I have tentatively listed July 1st as my release date for the hats. Yay! That project's been a long time coming, and to be able to simultaneously release 2 hat patterns is exciting. July 1st, pop on over to Ravelry, take a look. Feel free to pop me a message and say, hey, alert me. Or if you are interested in test knitting, there's still time, contact me and I'll pop the patterns out to you. The test knitters got both patterns and they have the ability to choose to do one, the other, or both. Either way, the patterns are theirs and I want them to do whatever tickles their fancy and makes them happy. And I'm really excited to see the results and to get that pattern out to the world. Thank you again to my test knitters. Thank you again to all of you guys. I appreciate you so much. I love doing this for you, and I think I have some dye techniques coming up in a future episode. I also have another shawl technique coming up in a future episode, and I have whatever it is you'd like to see. Send me a message. I'll see you guys next week. Have a great one. Bye.
Pop it, pump it, drag it, pump it, boom, so they have a heart.